Good morning. Welcome back to Dear God, Dear Star. Not every one of these is going to be extremely lengthy. I just wanted to give God thanks and praise for all the miracles that He's done in my life. Number one being, um, I lived a lifestyle of crime and drug addiction and all kinds of sin. And in the midst of all of that, I discovered that I never ever wanted to do anything else. And I openly admitted that to not only myself, but everyone else, because what I ended up doing was jumping through a bunch of hoops and doing all this probation and all these rehabs and committing myself to institutions after, I mean, even psychiatric units, taking all these medications that didn't work, that I didn't believe in, going to doctors and going to, I mean, all these classes and all this stuff for who? And it wasn't for me because I had no intention of quitting. Now, I love God beyond all um, recognition. I just didn't understand love at the capacity that He does. And I didn't understand how to change that, or that I could rely on His strength. I knew that my faith was the only thing keeping me going. Um, I also knew that my faith was what was going to save me. Um, because even though I didn't want to change, I didn't want any of the bad stuff happening, the repercussions, the earthly consequences, any of the stuff that was going on. I didn't want to feel any of that pain. I didn't want to endure any of that. I just didn't know anything else. And I just never thought I would make it anywhere else. Not that I couldn't, because I always had faith that I could accomplish anything, but I just felt like I was meant to be that way. And um, I just kept praying. I don't want to change, but I want to change one day. God one day gave me the desire to be this way. And I'm going to tell you that day came out of nowhere. And I will go more in depth on that particular situation later on. But that day did happen, and I had an encounter with God. And not only did it change my entire perspective in one moment, I went to the dumpster and I threw all of my drugs and paraphernalia in the trash, fixed my car, and drove all the way to New York and finished a book that I had been trying to write for what, 4 years. I mean, I had made it at least halfway through the book by that point, but then I went to New York, and then within a month I had finished the entire book. So I know that God has the power uh, to change anything in an instant, whether He changes yours in an instant or not. And it may have been an instant where my perception, my eyes had been opened, the veil had been torn, right, um, off my eyes. And I just, it happened so fast for me, in my opinion. But I mean, if you look back and speak to anybody that knows me or has known me, it seemed like I was going to be one of those people that it never happened for. Because I had lived this way for decades and decades. And a lot of the thing about it is it was so easy for me because I hid it for so long. I hid everything openly, like I had a job and all of this stuff. Nobody knew that I was on drugs for so long. Nobody knew that I was involved in all this craziness for a majority of my life. And I didn't even catch any charges until I was in my mid 30s. It took a very long time for them to catch up to me. And so it was easier for me to live that way, to get away with everything that I had been doing, because I was so good at hiding it. And then by the time it did become a problem, I just didn't care. I was stuck in it. I was so used to it. But I'm going to tell you, it is possible, even for people like me, um, people that no one thought it would ever change. And my own family, I told them I don't want to be anything else. I understand that I'm going to respect you and not be around you if I'm on it, or come to your house, or I'm going to steal from my family. I was um, capable of handling my own when it came to that. I didn't have to worry about bothering my family or anything like that. But at the same time, um, I did respect the fact that if they didn't want to be in my life, I wasn't going to force that. My kids, I was very forthright with my son about what was going on, and I just didn't want him to. I was more adamant at the point where I had become truthful with myself about being truthful with everyone else, because I think my guilt and my shame and my regret came from hiding everything all the time. And so it was very freeing to be able to say, hey, this is how I am. And then at that point in time, it was a lot easier to accept that there was a problem, because I'm admitting that there was a problem finally. I wasn't hiding it anymore. So I guess that's why the whole denial thing is a huge ordeal. But at the same time, um, with my children, I had to let them all go. I had to separate myself from that so I didn't affect them negatively. And my mom and my sister and my brother and everybody. And then it got to of course, it got to the point when I was saved. Not saved because I had been found God long ago, but it took me a very long time to achieve the point where I was free and I started becoming obedient. And in that very moment where he opened my eyes, obedience was like the only thing that like made sense to me, because that's where the true freedom was. And so when I started being obedient to his voice, constantly, regularly listening for it, wanting to know what it was that his will was, and wanting to proceed in that direction, when I was following the Holy Spirit, the direction of the Holy Spirit inside of me, instead of just agreeing with it and then doing my own thing. When I started doing that, all of everything that I had thrown away or lost started slowly being restored. My health, my sanity. I had so many health issues. I was on like 13, 14 different medications, mental, I mean, psychiatric medications, pain medications, a lot of bone and joint medications for the Ehlers-Danlos and rheumatoid arthritis, and all of these other problems that I was having, and the side effects from the medications they gave me meds for, all this stuff. And I was so young, and I don't take any of that stuff anymore. And he restored my health. He restored my youth. I went from looking like I was sick and like I was a lot older than I was, to um, eventually into the point where I looked my age again, instead of like I had aged 20 years faster than everyone else. And then on top of that, um, I got to the point where I could be stable and I could um, function and get up, my life in order. And then my son came back into my life, and my family was involved. And even more miraculously, my daughter, that I hadn't seen in 15 years, started having communication with me. So it is um, it is miraculous what can happen when you are obedient to the voice of God. And that's that's the whole joy and peace, and being able to see God in the land of the living. And I see it every day. And just, it's a miracle that I'm alive. It's a miracle that I'm not on drugs or in prison. And it's a miracle that I have had any of this stuff that I have lost or thrown away restored to me. And I give full credit to God, because I would not have done it. I had no desire to do it on my own. But I did pray that He would make a way one day for me to have that desire, and it happened. And it did, in His strength that I rely on regularly. I don't follow any programs. I don't do anything but keep in relationship with God, keep in His Word, and try and share that with others. So, of course, everybody has their own road. Is at God's pace, not ours. So, even if you're waiting for that moment, just keep praying. Stay in constant contact with God. The miracle is there, and it's coming. Have faith. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.